What is up, Glory Gang?
Yo.
Welcome back to another episode of the Glory Boys podcast.
Yeah.
I'm one of your hosts, Austin.
And I am Darren.
And today we're going to be talking about the importance of having contracts.
Ooh, that's important.
Let's go.
All right, guys, super excited to be back with you. We are actually sitting in our new content studio. We spent the last few days putting sound panels on the wall and painting and putting trim. We're doing a lot of stuff. We YouTubed a bunch of stuff and learned some really good tricks from John Cena. I couldn't even get that out because the guy that did these videos in like 2013 that we were watching how to put this trim along the walls with caulking and all of this stuff looked like a smaller, like younger version.
He looked a lot like John Cena.
Like John Cena. John Cena! Anyway, it was really funny. So we keep saying like we learned how to do this from John Cena. Yeah. Anyway, we made the space look really nice. We got some lights in the ceiling. We still have a little bit of work to do, but we're super excited to record in here. And really the space is built so that people can come in and record a podcast, record all kinds of different things from, you could Twitch and stream gaming in here. You could do a course. You could do unboxings and all kinds of stuff. So we're really, really excited about that. But before we go any further, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube. And wherever you guys digest this podcast, whether it's through Apple Podcasts or through Spotify, be sure to leave us a rating. We love seeing the ratings come in. You guys are super kind. All the ones that we've been reading really encourage us to keep going. So thank you guys for doing that. And be sure to share it with your friends. Tag us, and almost always we will see it and repost your tag if you tag us in your post.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when we're dropping podcasts every Friday. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of gear unboxings and reviews to post in the near future. Getting our studio lights installed in the studio, getting this space set up. We'll be putting out a vlog for that as well.
Yep.
So stay tuned. A lot of content coming your way soon. But contracts, let's get into it. Contracts are legal binding agreements.
Yeah. Are you a legal abiding citizen?
I am.
Have you ever broken any laws?
I have.
You have?
I have. A couple.
Ooh,
yeah.
Someone's a sinner.
I've jaywalked a couple times.
Nice. I grew up in small town Iowa. You didn't do anything but jaywalk. They didn't even have
They don't have stoplights.
Or crosswalks.
Or electricity. Or
cars.
Yeah.
Or TVs.
Well, you could just, can you jaywalk in a horse and buggy? Just kidding. No, I've had my run-ins with the law.
All right, lay it on me.
I mean, I've had plenty of speeding tickets.
Okay.
Plenty of.
That makes sense.
I got pulled over like 7 times in a week in my Civic because my taillights were like white because they had just faded.
Nice.
So I kept getting pulled over for that reason, that my taillights were too white.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of racist.
Yeah. I got an MIP on Thanksgiving.
Dang.
And it wasn't even mine. It was like people in my fraternity that left their booze in my car.
Ah, dang.
Yeah,
That's savage.
That was sad.
What
about you? Your turn.
I have a lot of problems in my life that I don't like to share, but I'll share some. No, I'm just kidding. My BC days, that's before Christ. I guess maybe I was like 14 or 15. I got a MIC, which is a minor in consumption. I was walking home from a party, just minding my own business, and a guy had robbed a car or stole something and was running away, and he was running around the town at the same time that I was walking home, and he was wearing a red hoodie. I was wearing a red hoodie. So the cops literally came up to me and was like, "You're the guy that stole stuff." And I'm like, I'm just 14 or 15 walking home. And thank God.
That's what they all say.
One of my best friends' dad was the sheriff. And so he just saw me and he like kind of gave me the nod and he's like, "Go home." And I was like, oh, this is so great.
That's nice.
So I got to go home, which is kind of nice. Yeah, that's all. Never did anything else bad because I'm an angel.
Right. Yeah, same. So contracts.
Contracts are important.
Are another thing you shouldn't break, just like the law.
That's very true.
Because they are legal binding contracts when you get them signed. So we want to talk today about why it's super important that you are getting contracts for every job. We'll talk about some of our mistakes and learning opportunities, we'll call them.
Yep.
And hopefully can help you avoid them if you're just starting out or if you've been doing this for a while and aren't having your client sign a contract, whether that be a wedding client or a corporate client or whatever that may be, having a contract in place will help you for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Reason number one is it protects yourself. So obviously a big part of writing a contract is so that the client can't take advantage of you, that the work that you're going to do for them, the price point, the dates, the turnaround, all of that stuff is set beforehand so that the client can't ask you more than you agreed upon, can't take advantage of you, and really can't ask for their money back. I mean, things like that will protect you.
Yes, some of those issues that we faced in the beginning was we would work with a client and, we always gave more value and always wanted to work with them and do as much as we could for the value of the customer and what they were paying. But here's the thing. We ran into times where we would get really bitter because the client would ask for 5-6 revisions. Some of these early jobs, we were charging anywhere from $500 to $750. So, after 5 revisions and 5 exports and 5 uploads and 5 emails and all that stuff, you're really just losing money.
Yeah.
So we discovered, I wish a lot sooner, but we discovered later on that we should probably write up into our contracts that we do a round of revisions or 2, depending on the project, and really just help protect ourselves.
Yeah.
We had an incident. This doesn't happen often, but we had an incident that we had multiple meetings, multiple phone calls, Zoom calls with this client, and they were just pretty difficult to work with. By the end of it, we were almost too exhausted to even start the process.
Yeah.
They were pushing back on how much we were charging. We added a ton of upfront value and direction, and we even came up with a production schedule and all of that stuff. And by the end of it, they were like, actually, we don't want to go with you guys.
Yeah.
But they had already paid us.
For the deposit, yeah.
For the deposit, which is in our contract. So this company was new, and they were trying to bootstrap it and not obviously pour a bunch of money into marketing right off the bat, but they wanted to go a different direction like a few days before the shoot. So we could have kept the money for the down payment, but they kind of came at us threatening to sue us.
Yeah.
And they have a little bit more power in the legal space than we do. And so early in our company, we just didn't think it would be worth the fight.
Right.
Over $1,500 or $1,300.
Yeah, it was like under $2,000, and it just wasn't. We knew that this was a client that if we stood our ground with, and we, hey, if you want to push legal action, that's fine. We have a contract in place that protects us, that doesn't have any of what we like, any of these things that you're complaining about or that you want to be different. None of that is specified in the contract the way that you wanted it. And so there's nothing that they could have done, but they could have gone to social media. They could have blasted us, left us bad reviews. They could have done all of that stuff. And that, honestly, that is worth a lot more than a few $100s to our company, longevity, long-term. I mean, we have only 5-star reviews on Google, and unfortunately, like, one bad review can really put a bad taste in people's mouth. And so you kind of have to feel that out with contracts. If you do have a client that is pushing back on you, just really weigh that with, what does this potentially cost my business reputation if I stand my ground with this client and then they go and bash me on social media. Now, there will be times where you can't prevent that. Some clients, you will have clients, unfortunately, that you will be able to do nothing to please them. You can give them a full refund. They'll still go and write you a bad review.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do in that case is respond, list out what actually happened, and be respectful, professional. But if people can see that you've taken the time to respond to it, typically they will overlook a single bad review in the batch of 50.
Yeah, and some of you that are listening may have some more legal knowledge than us, and probably could think that was a bad decision on our part to just kind of let that happen to us. But again, we don't have a lawyer in place, and we don't have some of that stuff. So we just said, hey, this isn't worth the fight. We're going to move on from this. So we learned a lot from that situation, and I think we'll do better next time. But it just wasn't worth the fight.
Yeah. But that's really been the only time we've had a contract in place and something has went wrong.
Yeah, in like 3.5 years. So.
Yeah, the majority of the time that there's been any weirdness has been if we do not have a contract in place. And that can just put you in a weird spot. You can't really push someone to pay you if you don't have a contract in place, because there's really nothing you can do. It kind of leaves you powerless. If there's no contract, then that client, I mean, you can do your best to like, we provide videos through Vimeo, we turn off downloads until the client has paid for their video, to prevent them from just downloading it and taking it and using it.
Yep.
But if you have a contract in place, at least you can send them, collection notices. You can, you can pursue legal action if it's worth it and if it's something that you want to do. But without a contract, you really can't do any of it. The second thing a contract does is it protects your client. And a lot of people don't think about that. A lot of it is geared towards protecting you because you want to make sure that no one's going to take advantage of you. But the other thing is it should give, if your contract is built out properly, it should give your client peace of mind that you're going to do the job that they hired you for.
Yep.
Because you should be held accountable if you're signing a contract with the client.
Totally.
To the work that you agreed upon.
Yeah.
And so it prevents people from being shady in the industry too. People from booking weddings and then not showing up.
Yep.
And you hear those stories all the time, and it's just, it's painful. It gives us a bad rap. It puts a bad taste in people's mouth. And it's just not, it's not cool when people do that. And I would say most of the time it's because they probably don't have a contract in place.
Yep.
And so if you're listening to this and you're a bride or a groom, and you're looking for a photographer, whatever, like make sure you get a contract with that person, because not only does it protect them from you, but it also protects you from them.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we've heard way too many horror stories just being a part of the wedding community or shooting with other photographers, but hearing these stories of people being called last minute because the videographer or the photographer for their wedding just dipped or pieced out or took the money and ran or shut down their website, and just left. And there's just a lot of weird stuff that happens out there. So again, you want to be protected. So as long as you read through the contract and you're confident that this person is trustworthy, you sign the contract, it's protecting yourself just as well as them. Yeah,
and that's something to make sure that you have a plan for is if you book a wedding, you have a contract. What does that contract say about if there's a pandemic and the person needs to reschedule their wedding? That was something we never thought about until COVID happened because we didn't really have any weddings reschedule.
No.
And then all of a sudden weddings are rescheduling left and right, and we have no idea how to handle it. Some people are charging, washing their contract, keeping the deposit, making the person rebook with a new deposit. Some people are just taking, a $500 rebooking fee. And so what do you want that to look like if the bride needs to reschedule to the next year within the same year? Is it a date that you have booked already or you could book? And so there's opportunity cost there. So anyways, all of that stuff. Also, what are you going to do if you can't make it to a wedding? Do you have a backup plan for that?
Yeah.
We don't have one specified in our contract, but like we have multiple people that could fill in and cover if one of us were sick.
Yeah.
And even if both of us were sick. So we have a fail safe in case that were to happen. But do you have something built into your contract that says, hey, if I'm hospitalized during your wedding, you can't sue me, or are you required to provide an alternative? What do those things look like? So having all of that laid out in your contract is super helpful in case that stuff does happen, which it will eventually. Most likely you'll be sick for a wedding. Thankfully, I don't think we've had to miss any weddings from being sick, but it could happen.
Yeah. So you just want to make sure that you cover all worst case scenarios. No matter what could happen, you want to make sure it's in your contract just so that you're protected and that your client is also protected.
Yep, absolutely. And the third thing I think that a contract really does is it protects your company. And I don't necessarily just mean financially, although it does that as well, but it protects your company's reputation. It protects your company's integrity. Different kinds of contracts like employment agreements. If you have employees, putting a contract in place that says, hey, if you were to leave, can you do anything with the information that you learned here that's company private information? All of that stuff, what access do they have? Setting up all of that stuff in a contract on the front end will protect your company. Things like lease agreements that we signed recently, even building things in there for what happens if the HVAC goes out, what happened. I mean, we're experiencing that right now. What is the accountability? What does the process look like if something major happens?
So when we moved into this space just a few months ago, we wrote up a contract for our landlord essentially and presented it and read over it and said, hey, these are all the things to protect you. These are all the things to protect us. Do you agree? and you sign the contract. It just adds that level of validity to us being here. And then there's no like weird gray areas to operate in. I think that's the best thing contracts do. They really eliminate the gray area so that you can operate fully in confidence moving forward. There's nothing to be on the table or negotiable. I mean, yeah, there's things that we talk about that aren't on the contract with our landlord or with our employees, but it's always your true north. You can always look and pull up the contract and be like, okay, this is what we agreed upon, and that's just in writing, and you signed it, so it's valid and it's legal.
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of wrap it all up, we haven't always been 100% at sending out contracts. Obviously, as we mentioned, we've made mistakes. We've had things fall through the cracks. And a lot of that is due to just trying to manage all of that at once. Doing all the admin. If you are an owner operator, you're a one-man band, like remembering to send out contracts ahead of time enough for the client to see them, read them, offer feedback if there is any, and then ultimately sign it. You really have to be proactive with that. And so just hear us from experience that having someone dedicated to help with that stuff is super helpful, whether that be a VA. We've talked to multiple people recently that have recommended getting a virtual assistant. They're very cheap, but they will help you make sure all of that stuff doesn't get missed, because it can easily fall through the cracks when you're dealing with trying to bid and trying to, respond to follow-up emails, trying to get things scheduled, trying to edit the work that you have right now on your plate, trying to go get new clients, like all of that stuff. Contracts get missed, deposits get missed, things like that. But if you're at all able to, just make sure you have someone that's able to pay attention to that side of things, giving it enough attention to make sure that you're not showing up to shoots without a contract in place for that shoot. Yeah.
And so I said this earlier in the episode, but obviously we're not lawyers and we didn't handwrite all of our content for our contracts. So if it's a guy that's just starting or a girl that's just starting their company, contracts can be very overwhelming. You can Google and find a lot of stuff that's, that can kind of cover you, but it's not specific to video or photo or whatever kind of creative company or business they're starting. So what did we do early on to acquire those proper contracts?
Yeah, so there's a few good resources that I know of, and I'm sure that you could find a million more out there. But what we started with as a basis was actually a contract designed by the Freelancers Union. And we found out about that through &Co, which was originally how we did our project management and invoicing and all of that stuff. It's a great free program if you're just starting out. Really functional. It didn't do the accounting features that we needed when we started classifying as S Corp and needing to be super official with all of our taxes and QuickBooks and all of that stuff. It didn't do any of that. So we had to move on to a little bit more fully fledged program, but we took that contract from &Co and use it today in all of the contracts that we send out to people. And we've just taken it, we've modified it, we've added things that are specific to our industry, but a lot of it is pretty, it's generic, but I feel like it's robust. It does cover a lot of the more common things that you would run into as a freelancer doing contracts. And then we just have a space that we can put any custom terms that we come to with the client or whatever. And we just have that built into Dubsado, a couple different ones depending on if it's a wedding or a commercial or different things like that.
Okay, so say that, our listeners, they have a contract, but they don't necessarily have a great system of how to send that out. What was something that you built out for us that made it really like automated, a lot simpler?
So Dubsado has features built in that you can do that. And &Co does too, I believe. Since the contract's built in, you can just click a button, I think, and send it. But Dubsado is really... I have it built out in the workflow where essentially once we decide on a price, so for weddings, it's really easy because it's just packages. They just pick what they want. We have a proposal that we send them. They can just literally check on whatever items they want. They click submit in the workflow. It then sends them a contract that's built out for those items. It has due dates that it pulls in from the project date that they set in the form when they go to our website and tell us when their wedding day is. So all of that stuff is pulled into the contract, which is nice because then you don't have to open up a Word document, edit the contract, duplicate it, save it. Oh, I accidentally saved the original template that I wanted to use. Like that stuff happens to me all the time with proposals. And so it's really nice to have a system where you can go into the contract, you can set smart fields that will pull in fields from the project that's created. So yeah, if a bride goes to our website, currently they can go all the way through the booking process without me doing anything. They fill out a form. They tell us when their wedding day is. They get a proposal right away with the package pricing. They can go in. They can say, I want a wedding film and a love story. Click submit. Then it goes, oh, here's a contract that has a wedding film, a love story. Here's your due dates. Here's the date that the event is. And here's all of your terms.
Yep.
Automatically sends to them. They can sign it electronically. As soon as they do that, they get a deposit invoice. They pay that. Then they're officially booked. They get a confirmation email, and then it takes it through from there.
Yeah, it's been really nice. And I know it took us a while to get to that place, but it definitely was the week worth spent that you had to build all that out and kind of learn. Because now we press play and it goes. Yep. And it's awesome.
Yeah, and if you guys are using Dubsado, if a lot of you are, I may have to do like a tutorial or sit down and just kind of break down how I have our workflow set up and how I have our Dubsado set up. I really think that for weddings especially, it can really help people spend a lot less time.
Yeah.
So if that's something you'd be interested in, let us know. That way I can, if there's enough people that are interested in it, I can just sit down and do a tutorial and put it out and show you guys what we have built out as far as that goes. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What we wanted to share today on contracts. Make sure you're securing contracts for all of your jobs to protect you, to protect your client, and to protect your business.
Yep. And guys, if you have any other topics like this one, it's not the most beautiful or sexy thing to talk about, contracts, but it's super important. So if there's anything like that you want us to talk about on this podcast, be sure to email us at hello@gloryvisuals.com and just let us know. If not, you can comment below if you're on YouTube, and you can even reach out to us on all of our social media platforms, which is at Glory Visuals.
Again, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. If you like the content that we're putting out, hit the bell to be notified. Leave us a rating if you're on a podcast platform. All of that good stuff. We're so thankful that you tuned in today to listen. Until next time, we're the Glory Boys, and we'll see you in the next episode.
We love you.